Ah. Oh, hello. We're live, and I'm beating up my camera already. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Call. This is my YouTube channel, and this is the illustration that I worked on for 2 streams. Now it is all penciled. I scanned a copy of it, so if I screw this up royally on this inking stage, I still have a backup. I can still print off a copy of the pencils and try again. That's why I try to always scan my pencils so that if I screw something up immensely, I am not completely screwed, because it's kind of hard to take it back with ink. That's kind of the way that it goes. So, speaking of, we are using the Winsor and Newton Black Indian ink, the one with the spider on the bottle. I have a fresh bottle. My last bottle was getting pretty low, which was actually making it very difficult to use because I would be digging around in there for the ink. I also have my also Winsor and Newton. You guys want to sponsor me or something? I use so many of these products because they're good. This is a Series 7 miniature brush. The miniature has a shorter brush head than the regular one. It's a size 4. Normally I use a full size brush. That's about the head of the brush is the bristles are about twice as long. But because there's so many itty bitty details, I'm going with the miniature this time. Hey, Spud. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. Oh, and of course, I realized that, oh, yes, this is a full bottle of ink, and I immediately dunk my brush in way too far and get it super loaded with ink. Let's try that again. Oh, also I need to put on old lady eyes. Hey, it's Dirigo. How are you doing, Dirigo? Enjoying our actual crisp fall weather now up in Maine. We're we're finally getting into a actually cold weather. It's getting down in the 30s overnight. They are, yes. Even the miniature brushes are fairly pricey. I personally think it's worth it, but also it's fair if you do not, because depending on what you're using the brush for, maybe you don't need one that's that. Maybe you don't need an actual Kolinsky sable brush. It's not something that everybody needs. It's fine. And depending on your skill level, maybe it's a little bit too responsive and a little bit too jumpy for you. Because I remember when I was in college learning how to do all of this stuff, like all these comic techniques and first learning how to ink with a brush and everything. And all the professors were like, "Oh yeah, the Winsor Newton Series 7 Kolinsky Sable, that's the brush that you wanna use to ink." And I tried it and I was like, "Oh my god, I hate this thing, it sucks." Um, and so for years I used the Raphael brush, which I still really loved the Raphael. I guess they discontinued them. I stopped using them a few years back because the quality control had kind of gone to hell. Like, when the brushes were good, they were super, super good. But, their quality control just wasn't there anymore. I kept on having brushes with, weird issues, and they were not that much cheaper than the Series 7. But when I was running into those issues, I was like, "Alright, screw it. I'm gonna have to go back and try the Series 7 now because the Raphaels are just not they're not doing it anymore." And then with, you know, many, many years of inking practice under my belt, when I went back and started using the Winsor& Newton again, I was like, "Oh, I just wasn't that good." I just wasn't that good when I was trying to use this before. It's a perfectly good brush. It's a very good brush. It was just a little bit too responsive for the skill level that I was at that point. I didn't have the control to get a good line out of it yet because it was too responsive. Hey, hungry? Don't have your firewood done? Oh boy, dear go. Rosemary and Co. I haven't tried those minis though. 0, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. A 4 would be kind of big for doing minis painting unless you're trying to cover a large area, in which case just use like an airbrush or something. Like Yeah, I haven't even looked at I know my furnace has kicked on a few times like overnight because it's gotten cold enough. And I have it set pretty low, but I haven't like increased the furnace temperature to what I'll normally keep it at for the winter. It's a little chilly in my house because I'm playing that great New England traditional game of how long can I go without like intentionally turning my furnace on. But it does get cold enough at night. It kicks on overnight once in a while. And I have not checked to see how much oil we have. I have no idea. We probably need oil. I don't know how much is in there. It's like one of those things I need to do to get ready for winter, but I haven't done it. All right, we have accomplished one leaf. How was the con? Oh no. Yeah, so Dirigo says that the owner of the Ellsworth FLGS is sick with the con crud. Bummer. The con went very well. I had a good time. I made some really good sales. There were a lot of like quiet spells where it seems like either when there must have been like times where there was a very popular like panel or photo op or whatever, and then like it would get pretty quiet on the con floor and it would just be like the vendors hanging out with each other. But it was really good. I made better sales than I expected, better than last year, so that's good. Yeah, I had a good time. I'm not surprised if someone got con crud. I think the Ellsworth game store owners were just like a row behind me, like almost directly behind me, just one row over. Um, if I remember correctly. But yeah, conventions, man. And I don't know, I'm continually astonished by how many adults just like walk around in public coughing with their mouth wide open and not even like covering it with their hand or elbow or anything. They're just like blah, 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 like freaking toddlers. What are you doing? Aren't you a grown up? Did no one teach you to cover your mouth? But I continue to wear a mask at conventions because I don't care if it makes me look like an anxious hypochondriac. I don't care. You know what's great? Not getting con crud. Not getting con crud is fantastic. I don't care if people think I'm neurotic. I am kind of neurotic. It's fine. I'm just very happy to not get con crud anymore. Because I used to also spend like the entire convention season, which is basically like 7, 8 months of the year, I would just spend perpetually sick with some kind of con crud variant. And it's like as soon as you would get over one, you'd go to another event and then you'd get it again from some other delightful regional variant of con crud. And it sucked. It sucked. And now that I'm still masking at conventions all the time, I never get con crud. It's fantastic. It's great to come home from a convention and, yeah, you're tired because 'cause you've had a busy weekend, but you're not sick. It's totally worth it. Do you play that game against your husband, like, first person to suggest turning it on loses? We do that here. There's also who decides to close windows first and turn on the AC in the summer. Um, no, like, the AC one, I absolutely am just like it's fine. We don't need AC. Just like close the blinds when the sun is coming in and open the windows in the evening and and morning and it's fine. And my husband's like, "No, it's not fine. I'm turning the AC on." But that I've gotten a lot less like, I fight him a lot less on at this point because, the summers have gotten a lot more humid here the last couple of years because yay, like, climate change is great. So we're getting more humid summers than we used to, and so we run the air conditioner primarily just to drive the humidity out of the air because otherwise it gets, like, real sticky and gross in the house. So I'm also usually the one who gets cold first, like, 'cause, like, it's cold," and I'm unhappy about it. But I also am the type of person who just puts on, like, another pair of socks, and I'm currently wearing 2 pairs of socks and 3 shirts, and I'm just like, "Yay, I'm nice and cozy." Yay, we have a singular hop. And the challenge is going to be keeping control over the line weights and shading so that there is a lot of information going on here, and I don't want it to just turn into, like, a busy blob with no visual distinction between the layers. I don't want it to be like, "Oh, I can't tell what I'm looking at because there's too much happening." So that's the challenge. The reason you started inking that first because it's in the center and can work out. So actually, I started inking it first because this leaf is on top. So if this were actually a three-dimensional object, this leaf would be the thing that is closest to us. And so I knew I could do the entire outline of it without having to like have it broken up by any other objects that would be overlapping it. And then this leaf also has nothing overlapping it. This one does too, and I'll probably get to that one pretty soon. But then like this hop also is on top. So these guys are all like sitting on top, so to speak. And now they're overlapping this one that's behind them. And so then I'm just kind of working on like this group of what's overlapping what. And so it'll be like this one next, then this one, and then this one and this one. And that'll be like that group before I have to start back over and then work my way down again. Basically just to prevent myself from having to stop a line short without necessarily knowing what's going to overlap it. This isn't like an official technique or anything. This is just the way that I've always approached inking because that's what made sense in my brain. Whether or not you think that makes sense to you, that's totally fair. to, to be like, yeah, that makes sense, or wow, you're crazy. Either of those, completely fair. And yeah, that's just kind of the way that I always conceive of how I'm approaching inking. And a lot of folks do it in different ways. And also, I'm moving pretty slowly on this, and this ink dries pretty fast. So as long as I'm not going like uh, really heavily from uh, right to left, then I don't have to worry too much about dragging my hand through any wet ink. But that is something I'm also trying to be cognizant of as I work through, that I don't like ink something here and then immediately move over, or left to, yeah, that I don't ink something here and then immediately move over this way and drag my hand through wet ink. So, because that would be bad and is also a thing that totally happens sometimes. Okay, good. I'm glad that I didn't just completely rant like I'm, channeling some Egyptian oracle or something. We're gonna give that a little bit stronger shadow so this has a chance to have some separation and jump forward a little bit. So, how has everyone's week been? My week has been really freaking crazy busy as I try to keep up with being the whole town office staff and just like life. This past weekend, no events this past weekend, but my youngest had his birthday party, which was very fun. As usual, my kids like to come up with challenging little birthday themes for me to try to make. Because it can't just be like, it can't ever be the stuff that there's like a million party accessories for at Party City or Walmart or whatever. No. 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 This time my child was like, "I would like a Pikmin-themed party," and he threatened me with this last year, and then he changed his mind. And I was like, "Thank goodness, because Pikmin-themed, I don't even know." He had to explain a fair amount of Pikmin stuff to me because I was like, "I don't play this game. I'm not familiar with this game. I've seen you play it, but none of it makes any sense to me. You're running around with little guys trying to, like, carry stuff. I don't know. I don't get it." Like, it's a puzzle-solving game, essentially. It's a strategy puzzle-solving game. Like, I get that part, but I don't get these little guys and their lore and all of this, and so it's hard to, like, come up with, party activities and stuff when you, like, don't understand the lore. You don't have, like, a deep connection to this lore. Um, so he had to explain quite a bit to me so that I could try to make this, and he seemed pleased with it. We had a pin the leaf on the Pikmin instead of, like, pin the tail on the donkey, that sort of thing. So I just drew some different Pikmin on a piece of, like, poster board, and then the kids took little, like, fake floral leaves, like, from silk flowers, and tried to tape them on top of the Pikmin's little headstalks. That was fun. And then he was like, "Can I have a piñata?" And I'm like, "Well, probably not, because I don't have time to make a piñata." Because I have made them before for the kids. Because like, the older kid had asked for a Zelda-themed party for his birthday, and so I made what do you call it? We're little goblin-y guys in Zelda. Bokoblin, that's it. I made a Bokoblin piñata for the oldest for his birthday a few months back. But I did not have time to make a piñata this time. So I was like, okay, instead, I'm going to get balloons. Like I looked up, okay, what's a piñata alternative? And it was like, oh, you can get balloons and you can have and put like a piece of candy or a little prize inside each balloon and have the kids try to pop them. And I was like, great. Sounds great. That works. Because then you could just draw little eyes on the balloon and be like, this is whatever pick your bad guy in your little adversaries in Pikmin that are this color. And I gave him the goofy little Pikmin cartoony style eyes, and there you go. That's what it is. But the balloons were like surprisingly difficult to pop. The kids were like trying to pop them, and it was just like trying to throw stuff at them to pop them, and it was totally not working. And ultimately, I had to just like give the balloons to each kid and just be like, "Just whatever it takes, kid, just destroy it." Because we couldn't get them to pop. It was pretty silly. But, of course, if you just hand a small child a balloon and say, "Destroy this balloon, there's a prize inside," oh, they love that. They had a grand time with that. They were just like, "What? You want me to pop the balloon? Hell yeah." So that was our big exciting weekend plans this past weekend. The weekend before was BCTC. And then this coming weekend, I'm going to be at Ostacon in Austin, Minnesota. Ostacon is now the home convention of Skirmisher Publishing, who I do a lot of work with. I'm part of the Skirmisher game development group, and I do lots of artwork for Skirmisher. And I've done some writing for them as well. They're also my digital publishing partner for Age of Night. So this is a pretty great pairing. I shipped some of my books out there. I'm going to be bringing some prints and I'm going to be running games because Ostacon is actually a gaming convention. So Skirmisher is like a featured publisher that's going to be there. But this is also the chance that the Skirmisher crew has to actually get together in person because we meet regularly remotely, but we live all scattered to the four winds. So we are coming into Minnesota from Maine, Florida, and Manitoba. So that will be fun. So if anyone watching this happens to be in the Austin or Minneapolis type area in Minnesota this coming weekend, the weekend of the what is this 19th and or 18th, 19th and 20th? Yeah, 18th, 19th and 20th of October. Uh come to Osticon, come see us. We'll be running lots of games and selling cool games and stuff, and I'll have some comics there, and it'll be a good time. We're running RPGs and miniatures games. Yay, more hops. We're slowly making some progress here. Trying to wet blend a cloak. Couldn't respond to questions. Fair. I occasionally get very quiet on here too because I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing and not mess up tiny details. It's like, how can you tell when Amanda is focusing when she goes completely silent? Okay, I need to stop dipping my brush like all the way, dunking it rather all the way in the ink. Come on, just like an appropriate amount of ink, not a stupid amount. There we go. Let me get this one little hop leaf up here before I forget about it. Just kind of hanging out there. All right, now we've got this. One down here. Again, we're going to give this a little bit of shadow just so that everything above it is pretty well separated. All right. I want to give that just a little bit of... Line was a little bit harsh there. So there, that's better. Hops. Oh, we got one more. We got one more little... What is this? Is this a bud? A blossom? What do you call this? What do you call the little... Is it just a hop? It's like hops are the plant. What do you call the little... Each one of these little guys? Somebody who's like way more into actual beer brewing or whatever. Explain. Buds? I mean, I feel like they would be called buds. Um, that makes sense to me, but I don't know. Like, usually a bud is like a flower that hasn't fully opened. Free has been mostly been mini assembly and painting traded in your old collection of second D&D for the Skaven Tide Age of Sigmar box, and it's a lot. I can imagine. That must be a lot of minis in there. All right, we've got the hops section done. And now the question is, where do I want to go from here? Where do I want to go from here? I think we're going to do some of the skull over here now. Whoop. They're called cones. Okay. No, that makes sense because yeah, they look kinda like pine cones. Okay, thank you so much for looking that up, Spud. We've now learned something new. Each of these is called a cone. Oh, Amanda, stop dunking your brush. Good grief. Free time. Yeah, I figured that's what you meant, Dirgo. SnowCon is in fact happening this winter. The SnowCon staff are just doing our typical thing of not getting our shit together until the last possible minute, because that is how we roll. I will say that was actually something very funny when we were yeah, so yeah, Deergo SnowCon is absolutely happening. We just have this very bad habit as a staff, of not, like, actually getting any of our shit together until, like, November for a January show. This is what happens every year. Uh, it's very annoying. It annoys us, and we're the ones doing it. Right, yeah, you're firewood, you can relate, yeah, exactly. Oh, this does remind me of when I was, having planning meetings with Skirmisher about Ostacon, and Mike, the one of the co-owners of Skirmisher, who is very, very proactive and very much, like, always has a plan for stuff and is always trying to stay on top of everything and generally doing a very good job of it. Was trying to plan for what we were gonna be running for games and everything and what kind of space we would have at Ostacon, and he's, like, getting very frustrated. He was getting very frustrated with the communication from Ostacon, and this was several months back, like, at the beginning of summer for an October show, and I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait." I'm like, "How big is this show?" And he tells me the attendance numbers. I'm like, "Oh." it's the same size as SnowCon. I'm like, "So, what you're s" I'm like, "So, look, I can tell you, being a staff member of a con of a similar size, that you're trying to ask them questions, like, 5 months before the con. They don't know. They're not doing anything. They're not prepared. They're not ready to answer your questions yet. They're not ignoring you because they don't care or they don't want your support or anything like that. They're just not there yet. They're not at that point in getting their shit together yet. Like, they haven't even set up the event on tabletop events yet. Like, you just gotta be patient. They'll get back to you. And when I explained to him, like, from that side of things that it's like, "No, this is just how these types of conventions run," and he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes more sense then." And yeah, sure enough, like, eventually, the Ostacon organizers got back to us and were super helpful and super supportive and got us everything that we needed. It's just, the fact that they aren't getting it done until, like, 2 weeks before the convention, because that's just how some conventions run. Small small gaming conventions, less than 500-person gaming conventions, 100% are just kind of a shit show. They'll still happen, everything will be fine, it's just that organizationally, you're really just dealing with a handful of folks who are getting to this when they can. Let's see, what do I wanna do next? I wanna do these TIFs next. Teeth. Okay, I did it again. I'm struggling here. Come on. Yeah, there we go. There's some nice creepy chompers going here. All right. Yeah, there we go. Looking good. Looking good. Ah, yes. Lovely creepy eye socket. Meant as a constructive criticism, not I doubt I'll go to SnowCon again. It was too much money for what I felt like was just a big game day, not a con. Yeah, and that's fair, because that's basically what SnowCon is it is basically just a big game day. It's a chance to play a bunch of games that you maybe wouldn't normally get to. It's like first con, and obviously others have been enjoying it for years, just not my thing. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of conventions, a lot of different types of conventions have like a lot more of like, like shopping and exhibition type stuff and demos and that sort of thing. And SnowCon also year to year, kind of like how much of any of that we have on offer changes year to year. Like we've had convention, like some events, some years where we had like a ton of people demoing. Um, and then we've had years where we've had like maybe one person demoing a game that's like going to be on Kickstarter or whatever. Um, and then we've had years where there's like a dozen different like vendors that are selling games and accessories and all sorts of cool stuff like that. And then we have years that there's like 2 or 3. Um, the big thing that we do always have is lots of opportunities to game with other gamers, play games that you maybe don't normally get to play or have never gotten to try before, that sort of thing. And it is basically just like that's always been the primary focus. Um, That's kinda like what people go to SnowCon for is just to play a bunch of games, to spend the whole weekend playing a bunch of games, and, like, that's totally fair if you don't feel like it is worth it for just that, that totally makes sense. Um, and yeah, it's certainly obviously, it's not gonna be, like, a bigger convention as far as having a ton of options for other types of activities or, like, exhibits or anything like that, 'cause we're pretty small. Um And over the years, we've tried different stuff too, like, the con has gone through different iterations of, like, trying other types of activities or offerings or whatever, and consistently, we basically have just found that, like, the only thing people consistently wanna do is game. Like, they've tried offering, like, panels and like workshops and screenings of like game related movies and stuff like that, and it's like nope, people just want a game. It's like all right, well, that's what the people want, that's what they're gonna get. Although the paint and take was really popular last year, that was the first time we did a paint and take, and that went fantastic, and we're very thankful that the Sprague family stepped up and was like, we're gonna make this happen. So that was a huge hit, and that's definitely going to come back. Assuming that the family still wants to do it because we kinda need we kinda need them for the infrastructure for it. As of right now, we don't have, like, infrastructure built in for it, but that'll be, hopefully something we can move forward toward integrating in the future since that was so popular. Yeah, yeah, and to be fair, I skipped Saturday because, snow. Yep, exactly. That is the other thing I warn folks whenever they've never come to SnowCon before is that the name doesn't lie. It always snows. It snows every SnowCon. It always happens. Sometimes it's Saturday, sometimes it's Sunday, but it always snows on SnowCon. Every SnowCon, we get a blizzard. Sometimes it's a blizzard, sometimes it's just a regular old snowstorm, sometimes it's an ice storm. Like, it's we're gonna have some kind of nasty precipitation for SnowCon. That is just what happens every time. And that's part of why even though I'm local, I just get a hotel for the weekend and just stay right next to the convention because I've spent too many snowcons driving home on, like, glare ice at 11 o'clock at night being like, "Nope, this was a bad plan. I don't wanna do that anymore." True story. I'm just like, or I could just go across the street and snuggle into my nice hotel room and not worry about it. Ta-da! All right. We still have a fair amount of work to do, but this is the end of this evening's stream. That's a good stopping place. I have the hops and most of the face of the skull done. I still need to do all of the barley and a little bit of the bits of skull that are peeking through around that, but that we are going to have to do next week. So, in the meantime, I'm Amanda Call. This is my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification thingy and all the fun YouTube stuff so that you can catch me when I go live, which should be next Tuesday. I do this most Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, you can follow me here. You can follow me on various other platforms at Age of Night or Amanda Call Art. And you should read my webcomic, Age of Night, at ageofnight.com. Thanks everybody for hanging out with me. I will see you all next time. Bye.